Hello and welcome. My name is Saran and I had a right ischemic stroke in 2013. It was from a carotid artery dissection and I was left with complete left side hemiplegia, which is paralysis, and I also have lack of sensation still from inside out to my left. I'm able to walk fairly well, but it's mainly my hand and fingers that are actually quite affected. So I hope that by sharing my stories, that I can empower others to live their best life on this lifelong journey of stroke. So let's get going. Today I want to talk about the return to work and the identity that goes with it. So as a young stroke survivor at 38, obviously, I'm working. I've managed an international software company. I used to travel once a month to New Zealand for a week at a time. I worked stupid, crazy hours. So, of course, when I had my stroke, I didn't really get educated in the fact that it's a brain injury. But I sort of thought, that's okay. I'm just left side affected, forgetting that I didn't actually know about the unseen deficits, the fatigue, the sensory overload, the brain fog, the depression, the incontinence, all of that kind of stuff that basically comes with it that we don't get told about, or a lot of people don't get told about. And so I sort of thought, that's okay, well, I still remember things. So after 3 days, I said, I want my laptop. And I was still in hospital. And people were saying, like my family and that was saying no. And I was saying, that's fine because I can get stuff to bring it in. I was stubborn. I am stubborn. Anyway, so I got it brought in, opened up the laptop, and basically I looked at all my chats and I had to basically go to sleep for the next 4 hours. I kept going, I kept pushing and I kept pushing and I kept pushing. And when I came out of rehab, after sort of 5 weeks, in the end, like it was a week in hospital and then 3 weeks in rehab, but then I was sort of doing outpatient and that kind of stuff, I would try and go into the office. The problem was, of course, is that even though people knew that I'd had a stroke, they sort of saw me and kind of went, that's okay, you can move now. So they still had that same expectation that I was sort of a bit of a hard ass. So, but my anxiety was suddenly like, oh my God, these people are expecting all these things of me. And even on the phone, I felt like my voice had changed, even though to other people it hadn't. But, I felt like completely overwhelmed. So I kept trying at going back to the office. And I would like try for a couple of hours a day, every few days, and just couldn't do it after about 6 months. So my boss was really, really good, and I ended up resigning. I then went for someone else, just sort of doing auditing and process and procedures because that's sort of the stuff that I loved. And it's funny because he actually refers to me, he's very much on analogies, which is pretty cool. But he was saying that like I was like an old iPhone. So I looked exactly the same, but my battery died so much quicker, and without anyone knowing. And basically it was just dead and it needed a lot of time to charge. So all during this time, I was sort of thinking, well, if without my work, I'm nothing. Like I can't take, I can't lose that. Like I've lost my left side. I can't lose that identity. And because it is so much, work is so much in a lot of people's lives. Post trauma, it's kind of like you want to hold on to as much as you can. And so I kept trying, and I was having to justify, all the stuff that I was doing because I was doing auditing, and then I was also helping write custom software, which is dumb because that's, anything new basically made me completely exhausted. I was on my medication, trying to get used to that at the same time, trying to do my therapy. And I was thinking, oh, that's okay. I've got a good work-life balance. No. My work balance was kind of, at least I was there. But then when I would get home, I was exhausted. I literally still existed around my family. And I had no idea. I had no idea that I was sort of just trying to get back into that stupid routine of ridiculously working and just existing around my family. So it got to about 7 years. Yeah, it took me 7 years to sort of work this out, trying to work full time, being completely passed out at night time and stuff. And I say work, I say full time, but in between I was able to go and do therapy and do other bits and pieces. So I was always doing therapy sort of 3-4 times a week. So maybe sort of 30 hours a week I was trying. Ridiculous. And it was at that 7 years that I actually found myself out of work, and suddenly it was like I had no identity at all. It was like, well, if I don't have work, then I'm nothing. And I reached this pit of depression, which wasn't a place that I was, I was used to sort of being there. Sort of, there were many ups and downs during these years with a stroke. But this was very much like, do I let that person go? I always sort of say to people, it's like you look in the mirror and you can see yourself being exactly who you were, but you're just trying to reach out and you can't actually grab it, and it's so hard and it's so depressing, and no one else gets it because they still, because they're seeing that you're trying hard, or you've had a stroke and you're trying to get better, but it's just so hard to wrap your own head around it and your own expectations of yourself. And that's why, I keep saying you have to be kind. It's such small progress. And whilst I was saying that, I was talking the talk, but I certainly wasn't walking the walk. So at that 7 years, I sort of found myself out of work for about 3 months, and it was good and bad because I didn't have anything to do. But I also had a lot of time to think, and I had a lot of time to reflect and kind of go, wow, I've managed to do all of this stuff, but hey, here I was at the very beginning of my stroke, sort of saying, wow, I knew that I wasn't spending much time with my kids and my partner, and this is sort of another chance for me to do it. And then I just jumped straight into that, ritual or the habit of working. And, financially, I still felt quite responsible, and it was really, really hard. And I must say that I was lucky because of the roles that I've had. I was able to sort of pick and choose a lot of things that I did and have control of it. But yeah, it wasn't until I sort of had that break that I could kind of reflect. And again, it was hard because it was having to let it go. It was having to sort of say, okay, I'm not that person anymore, or I don't have that ability anymore. I physically and mentally cannot do this anymore. And to admit that and to be okay with it is still taking time. It's still taking a lot of time to accept. I now know that I can't work full time, and I now know that probably 3 days a week is a lot. And even that, I now sort of, if I am working and I need a break, or if my brain is literally just sort of stopping and I know that just, I might be reading things or looking at things and it's just doing nothing, I rest. And I basically listen to my body, because the body always wins. And I've tried to fight it and I've always lost. So I go with my body. I sort of think, okay, no, I've got energy, so I'll use it now. And hey, actually, I feel a bit buggered now, so I'm going to stop. Or hey, I can do that a little bit more. But what I also realised was that I started doing support coordination because I'd gone through the therapy and the NDIS and all that kind of stuff. And so there were so many people who didn't know what they didn't know. And I only sort of found these sort of things out by fighting or finding other people and that kind of thing. So I thought, well, if I can help other people, then I'll do that. That's also when I got in contact with Caleb Brixel from Genius, which is a trauma network. Sorry. And, the connections that people have in there, again, to empower, connect, and celebrate is awesome. Like, it's such an amazing community because we have such similar experiences, and similar thoughts and similar expectations. And yeah, I just sort of found that I want to get involved in research, but I basically want to get involved with anything to do with trauma because, I fought my way through it. And, I think that if I didn't have the people around me that I did, I wouldn't be where I was right now. So that's my little return to work experience, I suppose, and within that is their own self-identity and self-reflection and acceptance. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please accept, please like, subscribe, all of those kinds of things with the YouTube thing. I also have Instagram, which is Young Stroke Journey Stories. And yeah, I hope to see you again, but thanks so much.